Obviously, that just made me laugh. The idea of like some guy making "I hate Andrew Tate" videos, like dressing up like a furry and then like crapping, crapping into like a shit box. That's all I can think about.
But there's a general pussification of the West, and it's on the downward decline. It's why, I was saying earlier, just enjoy the decline and, mark out the landmines and don't step on them, and, carry on with your life and enjoy it. But this is what society is trying to do. It's trying to convince you to use pronouns. It's trying to convince you that, oh, you're not a boy, you're a girl. You're not a girl, you're a boy, or that you're a furry and you should crap in a litter box. It's like they keep making up all this sort of stuff, and I don't think it's serving society. And there's no amount of just man up and get married or whatever the narrative happens to be from whatever side that it happens to be broadcasting it, that's going to solve any of that. It's an internal thing. As guys, you have to take ownership and lead yourself. You have to lead your wife. You have to lead your girlfriend. You have to lead women. You have to be that guy, right? There's nobody coming to save you. Nobody gives a shit about guys. Like I said earlier, nobody gives a fuck about your struggles. They hang out at the finish line and they pick the winners.
Yeah, the nobody coming to save you thing is just such a incredibly liberating statement when you
it's
when you
like
come to realization.
Yeah, it's like, I've said this on a couple of different podcasts, but it's like, there's the guys that are like, oh, nobody cares. They kind of just like, nobody gives a shit about me. And there's the guys that are like, nobody gives a shit, right? And they're just like, it's freeing, right? And if you get to like the latter part and you're free of all that, nobody gives a shit, then you can take full ownership of your life, and every little reward, every win you have along the way is all yours, 100%, brother.
I just love whenever I hear people and they say that, nobody gives a shit about, or nobody's coming to save you, and they see that as a bad thing. And I'm like, you live in a country where a president, the guy was fucking a porn star before his, while his wife was pregnant, they still elected him. You live in a country where a decathlete changes his gender from male to female, runs over someone, kills them in a drunk driving accident, becomes woman of the year. Like, you think people care? Like, do you guys remember Russia invaded Ukraine? Nobody's even talked about that in like 5 months, dude. Like, it's so crazy how people forget about these things that just happened. Jordan Belfort goes to jail for 15 months for securities fraud. He gets out and he's like the most popular sales guy in the whole world. Last time I checked, do you guys remember when Logan Paul walked into that forest and there were people strung up that hung themselves, and he was canceled because of that? Then he does one fight with KSI. He's the single biggest male influencer in the entire world. But it's something you said previously that just made me laugh. The idea of like some guy making "I hate Andrew Tate" videos, like dressing up like a furry and then like crapping into like a shit box. That's all I can think about. It's like that's all I can think about when you say that.
Haters, man. You get all these haters out today that like try to bring you down to their level, and it's like, that's it exactly. Like, hate always comes from beneath you.
Yeah.
It never comes from above you. It's always somebody beneath you. It's like envy and jealousy.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why they get so hung up on it. It's like, you know what? If you're so envious and so jealous, then why don't you stop being a little bitch and go and do the work?
Yeah, it is interesting. I love that quote. It's from Denzel Washington. It's like, people above you are never the ones who are criticizing you. It's always people below
100%.
you. Yeah,
always.
definitely. And when they make it, the other thing is like, I do appreciate criticism, like constructive criticism. I ask for it from from the guys who work in my company. I ask for it from my clients. But when it's constructive, that's fine. It's just when people just go off and immediately are personal, which I'm sure is something that you experience with YouTube commenters that don't have an avatar. I just can't think of a lower form of life than those people. But those are the
I just
ones.
don't read comments anymore. That's
Really,
strategy.
that's probably a good strategy. I read them right before I go to the gym. That's actually what I've been doing. I get really angry and then just hit the bench press max.
Fuck this guy.
Exactly, for sure. No, but going back to your point before, one of the things that a lot of people have a problem with is that you have an XY chromosome and an X chromosome, and then when men and women are born and go through puberty, you have significantly different levels of testosterone and estrogen. Men have about 17 times as much testosterone as women do. It peaks somewhere between the ages 19 and like 23, somewhere in that area. And so there are not just physical differences. It's not just that the depth, like the width of my elbow is thicker, therefore I can lift more weight, or that my skull is thicker, or that I have larger joints or whatever, or higher muscle mass, or deeper voice, or facial hair. There are neurological differences between men and women, period. Otherwise, you wouldn't. Here's one of my favorite studies. They talk about, Dr. Buss talks about this also. He says, when women cheat, men ask, did you fuck him? When women cheat, when men cheat, women ask, do you love her?
Correct.
When homosexual men get cheated on, they ask, did you fuck him? When lesbian women get cheated on, they ask, do you love her?
Correct.
This is unassailable proof that there are neurological differences between the biological genders, right? And this is not a function of blank slate. This is a function of evolutionary pressure and genetics. And so that's a lot of people don't like this idea. I don't know if you've ever read the intelligence paradox or something that, like, people don't have a problem with the idea of somebody's eyes being blue because both of their parents had blue eyes, or someone being 6'3" because they had two tall parents. People have a serious problem when it comes to the idea of, like, I'm more aggressive or more intelligent because my parents were like that. Because when you have two smart parents who have a smart kid, they're like, yeah, intelligence is heritable. When you have two dumb parents that have a dumb kid, they're like, well, it can't possibly be my fault. No, none of this is true. All this fucking, no, it's blank slate. All this, the reason why my kid's dumb is because of the education system.